on this episode of Lifeguard. A storm in the middle of the Pacific is making waves in Newport Beach. Big waves.
It will break your neck, it will break your back, it will break any limb, it will rip your tendons and rip your ligaments, you know, it will leave you walking astray out of the beach.
And the lifeguards are on high alert, protecting people in and out of the water.
Get the lifeguard.
While in San Diego, lifeguards race against the clock to get a severely injured victim to medics on shore.
It's going to be a 25-year-old female with traumatic injuries from a fall.
And later, lifeguards in La Jolla travel to great lengths to rescue an injured hiker.
He's down. He's not going to go long.
1, 2, 3. Put him on right here. Found the patient up there in mild condition, and getting him out proved a little bit tricky due to the location.
And then, lifeguards in Del Mar take on the next generation of first responders.
5 burpees.
And she pushes you to do things that you never believed you could do.
Good job.
The lifeguards of Southern California protect over 400 miles of coastline. And nothing impacts their day like the weather.
As lifeguards, a lot of us are amateur meteorologists.
Good weather brings a lot of excitement, a lot of action.
On these beaches, lifeguards are the first responders.
I have a 911 call of a distressed swimmer.
I like those exciting days where you don't really know what's going to happen.
Dispatch, a person injured on a vessel.
They are there to save you. They are there to lifeguard. This is Newport Beach, California. Located on the Balboa Peninsula, this beautiful beach is one of the most popular in Southern California. Large beach crowds always keep the lifeguards here busy. But today, crowds are not their biggest concern. Today, the lifeguards are preparing for a monster. A monster that comes alive with a vengeance. A monster that is simply known as the Wedge. The Wedge is a huge wave that only forms when several unique weather conditions come together. The first is a large Pacific Ocean storm, large enough to create a 10 to 15-foot swell. The second is a combination of wind and tide that steers that large swell towards Newport Beach from the south.
An interesting thing about Newport Beach is the phenomenon, the surf break called the Wedge. That area generally faces south-southwest, so it picks up a south swell quite well.
Incoming storm waves from the south hit the jetty at a 45-degree angle, reflecting off and then hitting the next wave of the set. When these two collide, they form a wave much larger than either of the two separate waves. Overseeing safety at the Wedge today is Lifeguard Chief Jim Turner.
We've got a large crowd. The Wedge just had its high tide. Everyone is here to watch the big waves.
Today, the lifeguards have extra staff on duty and a precise game plan. In addition to the guards on the tower, they will also station guards on boats outside the breaking waves and watch from the water's edge. Because here, response time is everything.
The rescues that we have here, there's a heavy impact zone, so we have that moment of imminent danger where you do just have to sprint out there right away and you don't have that little time to play with where you can watch a rescue begin to happen. Here it's just an absolute emergency right off the bat.
Over the years, guards have seen it all at the Wedge. On July 24th, 2009, the lifeguards witnessed the raw power of those waves as they slammed an experienced body surfer into the jetty, pinning him against the rocks. Guards responded immediately from the beach and rescue boats, trying desperately to get the man out of the water. They were successful in pulling him out and onto a rescue boat, but it was too late. He had drowned in the waters of the Wedge. Even with the dangerous and violent water conditions, the Wedge still attracts body surfers from all over the world.
I'm from Kailua, Hawaii, and came today to try to catch some waves at the Wedge.
I drove from Portland, Oregon yesterday to come down to be here. I'm from Egypt. I've actually never seen waves like this size live, ever, period.
They may love the ride, but with 20-foot waves, the dangers are obvious.
The Wedge tends to break in a really shallow water, and so here you're gonna see a lot of dislocated shoulders, broken collarbones, and we do get our occasional spinal that happens here as well, and our C-spines where people do break their necks.
You got to know how to take a pounding, and if you ain't ready for it, it will break your neck, it will break your back, it will break any limb, it will rip your tendons and rip your ligaments, you know, it will leave you walking astray out of the beach.
There's no question the Wedge is a dangerous place for the riders, but it's also surprisingly treacherous for onlookers.
The spectators are what make us nervous down here. We're very careful about who we allow to go in the water, so we're comfortable with their abilities, and barring some extreme accident, most of them are going to be fine throughout this kind of surf. The problem is the spectators maybe aren't aware of what the conditions are, the dynamics of this beach, how the water washes up onto the sand and can actually pull them down into the surf line.
At the Wedge, watchers get pulled into the surf almost every year, and one of the worst accidents was captured by an amateur cameraman.
Look at that. Look out. Look out. Look, I don't even know what's going on.
Tell them back in Iowa we were down at the seashore.
Watch it. They get sucked. This one's still sitting there.
The cameraman turned his attention back to the Wedge.
There's a set outside, and they could be hurting. Danny man looks like he is scratching.
And then the girls were pulled into the violent surf.
Oh, geez, get the lifeguard.
You better get going.
All three women were knocked off their feet and thrown around like rag dolls.
Holy hell.
But luckily for them, the lifeguards of Newport Beach were quick to respond.
That one's okay, we hope. Her mom or whatever, having a tough time.
Because of their respect for the raw power of this unique wave, the lifeguards will always keep watch on the Wedge. 80 miles down the Southern California coastline in San Diego's Mission Bay, hot summer sun is bringing out hundreds of pleasure boaters. And the lifeguards know that this increased activity in the bay is a perfect recipe for one thing: emergencies.
Dispatch to 4 Sam. Got a 911 report of a person injured on a vessel. It's going to be a 25-year-old female with traumatic injuries from a fall.
Lifeguards Steve Orlowski and Mark Brown are the first to respond.
Guardian 1 responding.
We arrived on scene and it was a 50-foot sport fishing vessel that had a lot of people on board. It seemed to be having some kind of a gathering or a party on board.
Using their training as emergency medical technicians, once on scene, the lifeguards quickly assess the victim.
I'm gonna feel back here, okay? You're gonna be good. Got on the boat, we saw her laying on the ground, a couple wet towels around her, and so we just worked from there.
She either slipped and fell or tried to jump from the flybridge into the water and landed in her groin area on the railing of the boat, causing her traumatic injuries.
She's got blood here.
Yeah, there's some on the side of the boat right there.
The victim's injury has caused severe bleeding and needs to be controlled immediately.
She was gonna be a major trauma, so we wanted to be off that boat as soon as possible.
The lifeguards and their rescue boats are crucial in the process of transporting victims. Essentially, the boats are water ambulances.
We just wanted to confirm that the Sports Center dock is going to be the best location for the medics. That's where we have them routed now.
Typically, there's a lot of traumatic injuries, and so having the skill of emergency medical technician is a key component out here on the harbor unit.
Lifeguards transport the injured woman to the medics waiting on shore in less than 10 minutes from the initial call.
26-year-old female weighing 107 pounds. She's in extreme pain, a 9 out of 10.
Thanks to the San Diego lifeguards, the woman is now on her way to the hospital. Newport Beach, California is known for its incredible weather and amazing surf conditions. Today, a distant storm has brought 20-foot waves to the infamous area known as the Wedge. But the lifeguards are on alert for another very important reason.
General reminder to all swimmers and beachgoers, we got very hazardous rip current today. If you don't have 2 fins on, please stay in waist deep water, no further. Thank you.
Today's weather is creating a hazardous situation. The west wind and the existing south swell are all the ingredients needed for a rash of rip currents. This aerial view shows what a rip current looks like. A strong, narrow current formed by wind and waves that pushes sand and water out to sea.
Rip currents are very, very dangerous and really underestimated. People get sucked down in them all the time, and people aren't here to pull those people out of them, or if they don't know what they're doing, they can die.
In Newport Beach, the lifeguards on land are backed up by guards on rescue boats stationed just offshore.
17 to main tower. I got a couple of boogie boarders out in the rip. I need to go get them.
With his eyes on the victims, lifeguard Corey Klepfer grabs his gear and rushes into the surf. 3 people have been sucked away from shore and can't escape a dangerous rip current. Lifeguard Klepfer quickly realizes he can't bring in all 3 victims, so he signals a Newport Beach rescue boat.
The rip current started pulling. They started getting taken out past the surf line, past where they could get in.
Once on shore, lifeguard Klepfer takes the opportunity to educate the boogie boarders.
We're gonna have a rip current in between 17 and 18 all day, pretty much right there.
I think we'll come down here.
Yeah. Down here, look for like brown choppy water, white caps. And then if you do get stuck in one, you want to swim parallel to shore until you get out of it and then come back in.
Cool. Thanks
guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely a good learning experience for the kids. They realize how quickly the rip current can pull you out. Luckily, the lifeguard was there and they helped us and the boat came and everything was good.
Meanwhile, down the beach at Tower 15, lifeguard Nick Espinoza is also keeping an eye on the dangerous rips.
Today is a great day if you wanted to come to the beach and see rip currents and understand what they look like and what they do, because they're all over the beach right now. Espinoza 15. My experience started when I was a baby. My dad surfed his whole life and started taking me to the beach. And through that experience, I was looking up at the lifeguards in the tower, and the whole time I was just thinking to myself, wow, I hope I get to do that one day. Now it's starting to act like a whirlpool right on the shoreline, even like where that little girl is right there. She goes in more than her ankle, she could be a potential rescue. And I've known from a very young age how the swells work during the summertime. We had south swell, but we have a west wind right now. So we're getting wind swell from the west, we're getting south swell coming in, and that meets right in the middle, right on that shore break, especially at 15th Street, because that's a south swell magnet.
Nick spots a woman who's been knocked down at the shoreline by a strong rip current. He must get to her before she's pulled out to deeper water.
She was walking down the beach, and a whole bunch of water rushed in all at once, formed a base of a rip current right on the shoreline, and literally took 1 second for it to form, start swirling, and knock the lady over. All right, are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. You just got knocked down?
The wave came behind us, knocked over my knees. I went down, and then we just kept getting hit by more waves that couldn't get out. I thought I was drowning. I thought I was gonna drown. And her too, and then I wouldn't be able to get to her. Finally got us out. It's really scary.
As much as I like being super proactive and educating the public and stuff, we're still, no matter what, you're always going to get rescues, and you have to be prepared for them. So I just embrace it, and I love making rescues.
When it comes to beach cities in Southern California, it doesn't get much better than San Diego. But with 22 million visitors each year, the beaches have a tendency to get crowded. Beachgoers who are looking for a more secluded experience may head north to Black's Beach. With several miles of shoreline butted up against the cliffs of Torrey Pines State Reserve, this area is isolated and protected by only 6 lifeguards during the summer.
With the 6 guards they have, they'll have one person up here at the top of the cliff, the place we call the perch. They watch as much of the beach from up here as they can, and then around the corner down to the south, we have another station that's a little bit closer to the beach. Then we'll have personal watercraft that's set up for rescue that we use inside the surf. We have a truck and we have an ATV down here as well.
So if a major medical situation arises here, they'll need backup.
Dispatch to Unit 34. There's a sick person up by Brenner Canyon in between Flat Rock and Muscle Rock, so you can head that way.
Lifeguard Ryan Foster was patrolling Black's Beach when the call came in.
I was in Unit 34. One of our utility vehicles, they called for a Code 3 response for our unit. I grabbed the trauma pack and started the trail.
Black's Beach lifeguards rushed to the scene with all available resources.
34 copy. We'll be heading that way. We're going to send the ATV due to the high tide.
Dispatch copies.
And 31 Sam copies.
7 miles south at La Jolla Shores, Sergeant Ben Lewis and AJ Villa depart Code 3 from Muscle Rock.
Blacks are able to have another unit head up there and help out with that.
A native of the East Coast, Ben was a lifeguard on the Jersey Shore for 5 years before deciding to move to San Diego.
When I came on 18 years ago, I'm the new guy from the East Coast, the New Jersey lifeguard that everybody's gonna keep an eye on and see if he can, hold up to the standard out here in Southern California. But the big difference is certainly weather. On the East Coast, I remember there were days in the middle of the summertime where we could see those dark clouds marching in from the west, and we knew the rain was coming, and it would just clear out the beach crowd. The beach would be empty, and it would rain for the rest of the day. But something like that in Southern California is very, very rare.
Being an East Coast native, Sergeant Lewis has had to learn to adapt to these types of calls on the Southern California terrain.
The combination of surf, cliffs, is dangerous, and you throw a couple people in that mix and it can make things particularly tricky.
The lifeguards on scene give the victim oxygen, check his vitals, and continue to feed information back to Sergeant Lewis, who is en route.
Is your patient unable to walk?
He's down. He's not going to be able to walk. I took him a Sam copy. I think the best way to extricate him is going to be carry him over Muscle Rock. I took him a Sam copy.
Sounds like he might be at the far north end, beyond some rocks, where the tide pinches off, so access could be a little difficult.
The lifeguards who were first on scene have stabilized the 61-year-old man, but they have a huge problem. This area is accessible to emergency vehicles only at low tide. The tide is now at its high point.
Dispatch, signal and Sam on scene, Muscle Rock.
Traveling on foot, Sergeant Lewis arrives at the victim.
Young meds?
Just taking meds for seizures, but he says he hasn't had he has a history of epilepsy, but he hasn't had any in a long time.
He was unconscious?
No, he was not unconscious, but he was altered.
All right, let's go. Let's move.
You ready?
Yeah.
On 3, 1, 2, 3.
Let's put him on right here. Found the patient up there in mild condition, and getting him out proved a little bit tricky due to the location. So we had to utilize the quad and a group of about 5 lifeguards to carry him out. We carried him out down a little stretch of beach, over some rocks to an awaiting 4x4 pickup truck, where we were able to drive him 2.5 miles to the paved road, where we had a fire department and paramedics awaiting the patient.
31 Sam dispatch, Unit 34 has got the patient en route to the base of the road to meet with medics.
Dispatch copies.
Whether it be the surf, the temperature, the tides, it's constantly changing. Today the challenge was accessing a patient with the high tide. A high tide that pinched off some of our access points that would be available to us during a low tide. And then we improvise a little bit when we need to and make decisions based on what the environment and our patient are throwing at us. So that's what we did today.
On any given summer day, the lifeguards of Del Mar Beach keep their shoreline safe for beachgoers. From rescues and rip currents to managing high winds, it's not an easy gig. To make matters worse, there's a well-trained group always looking to take their jobs. This is that group, the Del Mar Junior Lifeguards.
Around the cone, guys.
It's a sunny day in July, and the water is warm. Perfect conditions for these junior guards to learn aquatic skills and team building.
The Junior Lifeguard program started about 30 years ago with probably 6 kids. Over the years, it's developed into a very successful program, especially if you're growing up in a beach environment. You want to be aware of beach conditions, ocean conditions. and that's exactly what the Junior Lifeguard program provides.
Leading this next generation of lifesavers is a lifeguard with a name to remember. This is Turtle Rudolph.
Hello, Leonidas. How's the Del Mar JG mascot? How are you?
My desire to become a lifeguard started in college. A lot of my friends were lifeguards, and it looked exciting and fun, and I followed in their footsteps. Being the junior lifeguard director includes a lot of activities. I work with parents and have parent conferences, and that also includes workouts and joining in with the junior guards every day.
Ready and down. 1, down, 2. Turtle's super great because she's fun, she's awesome, she's athletic, and she pushes you to do things that you'd never believe you could do.
Good job. It's Friday. You guys excited?
Junior lifeguards is definitely the building blocks to become a lifeguard. We talk about rip currents, we go through first aid, and they also get to train with lifeguard equipment.
You guys know what it means to attack the waves?
Of the current staff of 60 Del Mar lifeguards, almost 40% were junior guards.
My first year doing junior lifeguards, Turtle was my instructor, so when I was a little 10-year-old, Turtle took me under her wing and showed me what to do and how to do it the best way I could. And it basically taught me everything I know, made me who I am now as a lifeguard.
Well, what are you waiting for? Yeah! 5 burpees. Get some air, jump up.
Nice job, guys.
While Turtle and her team pass on the skills, they also focus on the fun.
Kids get fitness, they get a day in the sun, no video games, they're interacting with each other, learning new skills.
But the junior lifeguards also get something else.
Everyone always asks about my name, and you're just gonna have to come be a junior lifeguard to find the answer.